Hey, what's up guys, Anboni here, and today I wanted to address a question I'm asked quite frequently. How do you stay alive and how do you deal with being focused in arena by double melee, getting shut down, not being able to get any VTs out there? How do you deal with that? I want to talk about positioning first. In threes, as a Shadow Priest, you're not really kiting anyone. You generally just pick a spot and you kind of sit there and you do damage. And against double melee, you do not want to be next to a pillar because they'll be kiting you behind the pillar and they'll be line of sighting you when they run out of kicks and stuns. So against double melee, you want to pick a spot out in the open and just sit there and you try to get away from the enemy healer as much as possible so that you drag them out. Against double caster on the other hand, I prefer staying next to a pillar so I can line of sight their casts. Pretty basic stuff. Power word shield. Okay. If there's one thing you're gonna take away from this video, please let it be this one. Power word shield on cooldown is massively underestimated. It is so big if you shield yourself on cooldown. And I say on cooldown, you know, realistically you're not gonna shield yourself literally on cooldown, but as close as you can to shielding yourself on cooldown, it's gonna make a huge difference. A huge difference. Shielding yourself on CD is about 5,000 HPS. Healing per second, and that's with no crits from your shield. Your shield can crit. Obviously, if it crits, it's a lot more. You can check your healing after every game by using an add-on like Details, and your shield should be way higher than anything else, especially in a long game, obviously. I see almost every single priest I see doesn't shield enough, and you should try it. Just go in a game against double melee, and for the sake of science, just shield yourself on cooldown. Okay, focus just on shielding and see how much healing you have at the end of the game. It is ridiculous. Your healing should be higher than a warlock's. Well, depends, but Shadow Priest healing is so much with power word shield, and yeah, most of the priests I see when they play, they don't shield enough at all. Especially when you get trained. When you're not getting trained, of course things are different, you have better buttons to press. But when you do get trained, and we'll get into exactly what buttons you can press, but shield, remember this is like the biggest thing in this video. Shield yourself a lot. Spam shield, it is so big. Alright, make sure you spam shield. We have Fade, Dispersion, Life Swap, and possibly a trinket like Battlemaster. How do you rotate them? And when do you press them? Because if you panic and press everything at once, which a lot of maybe lesser experienced priests would do because it always feels like you're dying, and then you're definitely gonna die because you have nothing. So you want to space your cooldowns and you want to rotate them accordingly to what is happening in the game. There's no way around it. Your healer can't be Pepega and panic. They have to sit there and spam heal. If they're free casting heals, you shouldn't die unless the enemy is using big cooldowns. Obviously, then you have to respond somehow, or someone in your team has to respond somehow. So I have this game for you where I'm getting obliterated by this TSG, and you'll see I'll go through all of my cooldowns in this one clip. But I wanted to show how I get very low here, but I don't press anything because I see my shamans in the back free casting, and as long as he's free casting, I shouldn't die theoretically. Now he gets gripped here, so I use a fade because I'm ready to press stuff because I know I'm super low and I might just flop at any second. But he gets gripped, I use fade. I fake their kicks here, and I'm really low, but I'm not pressing anything. He gets bashed here, so I will use my Battlemaster because I was gonna die otherwise. And hopefully he's gonna have enough time to pick me up here. I'm just getting trained really hard. And they're gonna use a sharpened blade here. Yep, there's a sharpen. And my healer gets stunned for a DR stun, and my Battlemaster falls off. So I have to disperse. But yeah, they forced everything in that 30 seconds. But at least I didn't panic, and I spaced my cooldowns as long as I could. And this is my healing at the end of that game. We lost, by the way. And it was a really short game with just one dispersion. But look how big my shields are compared to everything else, even Void Shift. So remember, point number 2, press a lot of shields. So to recap real quick before we move on to the next point of how to stay offensive when you get trained. You stay in the open versus melee, and you stay next to a pillar versus casters. You shield a lot, and you dispel a lot, and you Shadow Word Pain a lot. We'll get that in a second. You trust your healer, and you don't panic even when you're low HP, and you trade cooldowns when needed, either when your healer calls for cooldowns, or when you see something happening like your healer getting CC'd, or, I mean, hey, if you're 5% HP and your healer just can't keep you up, you gotta press something. Okay, so that's all great. Let's say you manage to survive for a while until you eventually die. But what do you do while you get trained? How can you still stay offensive, kind of? And how can you still stay relevant and useful to your team when you can't get any VTs out there? Alright, so here's how it goes. The gates open, and bam, they're on you, they're fucking you up. What do? You can't cast anything. What I like to do is, I like starting with Shadow Word Pain on everyone. Even though I play Misery, I just cast Shadow Word Pain on everything. And that's gonna start getting me shadowy inside procs, and also Shadow Word Pain is your main source of damage, so it looks like you're doing something at least. Everyone has Shadow Word Pain? Great, now what? Well, instant. If I know they're too melee and they're gonna kick me and I can't cast, I'm not even gonna try. So all I'm gonna do is spam instants. Against Druid healers especially, you just spam Dispel Magic, you spam Purge, that's all you do. You spam Shadow Word Pain, you spam your instant Mind Blast, your shield on cooldown, and in between all of that, you just purge and nothing else. When you get to your Void form and you have a go with your partners and you can do damage, your Void form is instant, your Void Bolt is instant, your instant Mind Blast is instant, and again you shield and you purge. That's all you do. You don't try to cast VTs because there's no point. It doesn't really matter even if you do get kicked in shadow, so you can try to fake or just go for VT cast or Mind Blast cast or whatever you want, because even if you get kicked, you can still purge. And in this meta right now, spamming Purge is the meta for Shadow Priest. That's what you're there for. Against Druids, it's sad, but it is how it is. You're there to spam Purge on Druid HOTS. That's all you do, especially on goes. And before you set up, you just want to make sure your targets are clean. So just spam Purge, so it doesn't matter that they have a billion kicks, because you don't press VT, you don't care about VT. And that's kind of it. To recap, what you have to do when you get trained, or what I do at least, you don't force casts, because it's not gonna work. Everyone has 50 billion interrupts nowadays, so especially against Druids, but not only against Druids. Most healers you play against, or most comps you play against, there's always something to dispel. Against Resto Shaman, you want to dispel the Shaman. Against Monks, you want to dispel the Enveloping Mists and the Renewing Mists. Against Disc Priest, you want to dispel the shields, I guess, especially on Rapture. But Disc will generally kind of go if you line of sight and don't let them smite you. Against Paladins are really tough, but they also have, I'm not sure what it's called, but they have that stacking shield wall on targets they heal, so you can dispel that. And against Resto Druids, you just spam Purge their HOTS. So instant Shadow Word Pain, instant Mind Blast, instant Power Word Shield, and instant Dispel Magic, instant Void Eruption, instant Void Bolt. That's all you press. And again, if you want to fake, sometimes you can fake. If they have no kicks and it's safe, just go for a VT. Even if it's not safe, and if you get kicked, it doesn't matter, because you can still cast Shield and you can still cast your Purge. However, a very important thing is, do not get kicked at low HP, because then you will die. So just don't cast when you're low HP. And that's it for this video. I hope it was useful. I know a lot of people struggle with getting trained as a Shadow Priest. It's been happening since forever. In BFA Season 1, Shadow Priest was probably the tankiest class in the entire game, and I was still getting trained every single game. So it's ingrained in people's minds that Shadow Priests are juicy, appealing targets, because we have no mobility and we have only one school. But now our Purge is buffed and we have a lot of instants. So go out there and have fun getting shit on. Peace!